Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Techpoint Africa Podcast. I'm Oluwanifemi, and with me in the studio today is Chimgozirim. I don't know whether you guys missed him last week, but yeah, he's in the studio today, as I promised. Yeah, last week we had interesting conversations, and today's conversations have a little bit similarity to what we did last week, but I'm sure they are important to what is going on in the tech ecosystem and what people are talking about. Maybe not on the street, but on the internet. So we start with a new directive from the Nigerian government, which was reviewed by the crypto exchange Kucoin when it sent a notification to its customers that they will be paying a certain tax on their crypto transactions, which is in itself sounds weird, right? We'll discuss that, and that is what our guest that will be joining us today will discuss with us, and then we'll move from there to a a startup, a grocery delivery startup that I decided to enter into the food delivery space. That is Mano. In Nigeria, right? They are planning to enter into the food delivery space in Lagos and Abuja. Kucoin's users in Nigeria got notifications yesterday in their emails telling them or informing them that they will start charging a VAT of 7.5% VAT on trades that will be done on the platform. This came as a shock, given how the Nigerian government disposition to crypto transactions or like every other digital asset, their reaction to it right from time. And now you want to tax them on this is it the consumable tax, or I've forgotten what they call the general name for the 7.5% tax. Yes, just VAT. Yes, on it, and it's surprising, and it got us to ask some questions. That is this even normal, right? And to answer that question today, we have with us on this podcast Olaleye Oladimeji. Is the founder of Registered.io. Is also is a lawyer, is a legal practitioner. He's a partner at Legalpreneur and Consulting, and he's joining us on the call today to answer some of these questions that we have about this new development. Before he introduces himself, I must mention that so far, as of the time we're having this conversation, we could only confirm this communication from KuCoin. Other exchanges operate, especially Nigerian exchanges, we've not been able to confirm whether they sent similar communications to their users. So, Olaleye, thanks for joining us on this conversation today. Can you just say hi to our listeners and our audience?
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for that introduction. They said I'm a partner at Legalpreneur Attorneys and Consulting, all of them based here in Nigeria, and also the founder of Registered.io, which is an international expansion service for businesses.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on this call, Olaleye. And let's just get into the conversation. We understand how quite unregulated the crypto space is in Nigeria, and with that at the back of our mind, and the, let me use this word, gbas that goes on every other market day between crypto startups and the government, is there any legal backing for this new VAT charge as communicated by KuCoin?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, I would say currently as an industry, there are minimal clarity, regarding quite a number of things. And, taxes actually even being one of them. With the introduction of the Finance Act in 2023, digital assets, were included in the provision of Section 30 of the Act, which capital gains tax were to apply to. And rightfully so. I mean, being a space that trades volume and there are a lot of financial transactions that go on daily, right? I'm sure the industry is definitely willing to have, the government come in with what can work for the ecosystem in terms of taxation, which capital gains was one of those that they introduced to 10%. With the recent announcement by Kucoin yesterday, regarding the 7.5% of VAT that they will be charging, I mean, I would say it's something that was expected because VAT generally applied to goods and services provided, to Nigerians or within the Nigerian space. But I mean, you can't rightfully tax, a service that you don't even have regulatory clarity around a certain number of things, right? We have disjointed regulation where there is a lack of coordination within between the main regulators, that primarily being the SEC and right? So what are we looking at? We have a regulation from the SEC that contradicts what the position of the CBN is, and we have the CBN even restricting the currency transactions being conducted through the traditional financial system. So how can you say you want to tax this this industry that you have failed to basically put out those clear frameworks that would actually put the mind of stakeholders at, right? There are still a number of issues that currently, are still being addressed in space, right? But I think regulation is one of those things. It's more of the situation of putting the cart before the horse, right? I mean, eventually everyone recognizes the fact that there has to be, a clear framework around taxes, of which that isn't even applicable and, available at this time. Even the provision of the act, the Finance Act that was introduced, doesn't even clearly define what is a digital asset, what constitutes that, right? Is it just, are we looking at, those assets that we can regard, as commodities or as securities? Are we saying which of these will the capital gains, apply? Because when you look at capital gains tax, for example, that, let's say, would be on, whatever profit you've made off whatever assets, the gains you've made basically on the assets that you've held for a period of time, right? Now, looking at VAT itself, it's a tax that, is deductible of first instance, from the transaction that is done itself. But you want to even deduct this VAT tax from transactions that you do not even have a clear framework to say this is legitimate or this is how it should be done. But you don't even have a clear monetary framework to even make sure that these taxes that are deducted are what are properly remitted to you, what true records are what are declared to you by these exchanges. So in the long run, I mean, you still have some of these, the regulators will still be advanced like that in the long run, especially when there's no clarity around. And it just, in a way, still, it not showing readiness, really, to be honest, because the foundations just have to be laid right. And of course, we understand the government would want to see how it can benefit, the ecosystem in general in terms of boosting the economic prosperity of Nigeria by taxing some of these industries. But you have to have a clear legal framework for some of this, right? You can't keep treating them as if, they are criminals or, it's a dark market, basically, like a former, CBN governor said, back in the day. So, I mean, those days are past. I think more education needs to be done, for the regulators in this space. But we need, to have proper foundations set.
Yes. So, from what you've mentioned, Olaleye, is that this is not illegal, this is not out of place. It is just that you don't have the right framework to make it work, right?
Yes, exactly that. And based on the premise that a lack of regulation in a space, you shouldn't be looking at taxing when there's the regulation isn't just there. The frameworks aren't there. The foundation isn't there. Even the taxation, right? There is no clarity as to the nature of taxes that should apply and which kind of asset it should apply to.
True.
And in my opinion, in a robust ecosystem, encouraging innovation and investment in this sort of areas, nothing stops the regulators, the FIRS from considering probably a VAT exemption for some of these nature of transactions that, that are conducted in the space. Thank you.
Today's insight of the week is Nigeria's quarterly VAT collections. They have reached new highs in 7 consecutive quarters since Q4 2021. In Q1 2023, a total of 781 billion naira was collected in VAT. If you want a link to this insight, simply go to the description and you find the link there. And if you're looking for more interesting insights like this, simply go to intelpoint.co.
Thank you very much, Olaleye, for that. I don't know if Chimgodrim has any question, but before he goes, I want to ask this. Yeah. You mentioned that digital assets can indeed be taxed, right? So with that in mind, what are like the digital assets that you would say the government has like, we already have like a framework around tasks? That word can be problematic. Yes. What are like the digital assets that Nigerians currently use or trade that you feel that the system or there's a framework around, or there's no framework around any form of taxing digital assets in Nigeria at the moment?
Right. Great question. So I would say, based on the existing regulation and what obtains as best practice in the industry, right? So when you have certain assets that are digital assets that are held by individuals or corporate bodies, for the purpose of investment, right? When you have, probably about an asset, worth, let's say, maybe $1,000, right? And over time, holding that particular asset, there is a profit, a capital gain, again on that asset. Probably it rises, up to the point where it's worth probably 1,400. So $400 profit on that, that can be taxed, right? There's a capital gains, tax that would apply to that, right? Which is because that is solely earned for, investment purpose and, profits were made, which, is applicable in, many ecosystems. I mean, you could even have a system, which I think some of that even applies to this finance act, where are able to apply capital losses, right? And you offset it over a period of time. Probably if you make probably losses on those kind of assets, you can probably set off those losses against whatever deductibles that you have, right? So primarily for those purposes, you can have those kind of taxes applying. And for the VAT that was mentioned, right, that is for trading transactions according to what Kucoin sent out, which I read. The trading transactions that are conducted, in their platform. So as a platform, they have the premise, right, to deduct that at the point of transaction and remit, right? But many things are still unaddressed, right? You don't even have the compliance and monitoring structure yet in place. The necessary tools, the necessary industry collaborations, at this time have not been firmed up. So a lot of things are still yet to be addressed. Monitoring becomes an issue. The exchanges could just declare anything, right? And say, okay, this is the volume that we need within this while. And, all that becomes a challenge. You can't possibly monitor this. The full benefit that you could have had from actually having a coordinated implementation of whatever the current regulations are in place, or whatever reviews are to be done, of which they recently even proposed some new amendments to the SEC rules, right? And not even all assets can be regulated by the SEC, right? Because it's only assets that are securities that fall within the purview of what the SEC can regulate, right? Some assets can be deemed as commodities. So there are a whole lot of things to be addressed, all together. And for there to be a proper framework in place, proper foundations, then you could even propose these taxes. I'm sure the industry is willing. Of course, the industry wants to contribute. This is a $1 trillion economy. They definitely be glad to, contribute to the economic prosperity of Nigeria, especially at the time where we need to boost our GDP and our earnings. And, over time it has been proven. I mean, the results show this, that the technology space has contributed so much to what, GDP has come into not just Nigeria, but all over Africa. And we have to just support this innovation and make sure we're able to, you know, get it to benefit the economy and also boost investment. So having this thing set up would only incentivize, small time crypto exchanges, the local players, from engaging in the market. I mean, we could have bigger exchanges being able to meet up some of these necessary requirements, the taxation provisions, which even though they are still on prayer, I'm sure all this is just more of an attempt from Kucoin to stay compliant in some way and try to have regulatory engagement. There are very few number of exchanges that have actually gotten those licensing requirements that they put into place in 2022. So all of other things have to be addressed beyond just having a regulatory incubation program set up. Still after the end within a year, you're still requiring them to meet those requirements with those bogus amounts in this economy. So we need to go back and actually set things right, with the right foundations, basically, that we can have conversations around things like taxes and what the industry will definitely willing to comply. Thank you.
Okay, so you spoke earlier about the lack of clarity in that space, and so far we've only seen Kucoin announce this move, and we haven't seen any official communication from the regulator to say we are now taxing crypto gains in Nigeria. So I don't know, do you think this could be like the first of many to come, or is basically, should we be expecting more crypto exchanges to come up with these updates or with these developments, basically informing their users that they would be charged 7.5% VAT on crypto trades?
Thank you very much for that. I think that's a question. But it would be only right for us to expect that other exchanges will want to follow suit, right? Because KuCoin as an exchange is a major international player. And they've been operating, in the space for a while. We know the recent issues that exchanges like Binance have had, within the ecosystem, right? It's only right that we expect other exchanges may want to follow suit. Though it's still going to be subject to whatever FIRS actually puts out there as a statement regarding, this implementation. Because now you see different regulators coming into the space. We have the SEC in now. The CBN came with its own. The NFIU too has, a couple of regulations already into place as well regarding monitoring and obligations. Now, FIRS has come into the picture, right? Now, I think all of these regulators need to come together and actually have a proper communication with the industry stakeholders and the major players in this space, right? Because I would not expect, which I know this is likely what they would do, is to have other exchanges also follow suit. They're actually addressing, you have to actually, more like ignoring the elephant in the room, right? So you have to address, these issues that have been there. If you just say, leave it, for all these exchanges to, make their own moves regarding whatever they would implement and that kind of thing, I would expect probably Coin have, had communications with FIRS before taking this step, and the likely probable fear of being subject to the same issues that Binance had in Nigeria, and they want to remain relevant within the ecosystem. They want to, you can see this is actually a step showing they want to be involved, but the regulatory clarity and uncertainty that is the void, really in the market is what has been making many of these players just take a step back a bit and engage selectively regarding how they, operate within this market. The willingness is there. And other exchanges may follow suit, but not just the best way to go about it without having proper statements out there regarding what it should be, what should apply, and actually making sure, they get stakeholder feedback, some of these introductions that they want to make. Because without the stakeholders actually being able to meet up this requirement, it's more like having, laws that, cannot govern, people. And, without there being effective laws in place, I mean, there tends to be just chaos in whatever industry, sector, whatever country, that happened.
Yeah, Olaleye, I noticed that you said many times in your response how the ecosystem is willing. They are not strong-headed. Whatever you ask them to do, they will be able to do. You said it in different ways, and I want us to close this conversation with this, the possible impact. Okay, say the government eventually puts in place what they're supposed to put in place, right? And they are able to like move forward with taxing gains from this digital asset, right? What do you feel would be the impact, either negative or positive, on the businesses, right? I'm talking about both global and local exchanges now, and also on the crypto ecosystem in general, which will also include the users, the people that trade crypto on this platform. So let's say everything ideally in place, and the government can go ahead to tax this digital asset. What do you feel will be the impact on business and the ecosystem?
All right. I think it will be positive, to be honest, overall, because based on the nature of the financial transactions, itself. I mean, you would expect the government and Nigeria as a whole, should benefit from the business activities that are ongoing, right? It is very clear, right? There are various stakeholder groups and self-regulating organizations that have been trying to actively engage with the government and the regulators, in particular. We have a number of them, CBAN, Kucoin, CDI, and a number of them operating, within the ecosystem. And they'll try, over time to resolve these issues, have a roundtable with them. And I think there are still outstanding issues. But for sure, over time, I believe it's going to be a good contributor to the economic prosperity of Nigeria, the GDP, and we have so many other countries that are making good revenue from some of these licensing fees that they charge some of players in the space within the ecosystem, and the taxes. But the taxes have to be reasonable, of course. And I'll take a cue from the example of South Africa, with the recently introduced regulations and licensing requirements within the ecosystem, which hundreds of exchanges and other players within the digital asset space, have been able to slip this licensing, and the government is benefiting actively and being able to monitor these exchanges, because you need those monitoring mechanisms. They are just necessary. Without those, I mean, you can't effectively regulate and implement whatever you ask without those mechanisms. And plugging into that is having them licensed and having them commit to operate within those regulatory guidelines that have been set in place. So overall, it's a positive, and we're hoping that they send the right foundation. That's very important. The right foundations before they go ahead to even implement and have probably a referendum regarding what should apply, what reasonably applies, and how do you even collect these crypto taxes? Are you collecting it fiat? Are you collecting it crypto assets? I mean, if you're saying I cannot operate a bank account, right?
Exactly.
And that does like crypto transaction, and you want to tax me. So how do I pay? Should I send Bitcoin to the wallet of the FIRS to remit my
FIRS as
taxes?
Bitcoin wallet.
Yeah, you have to. Some of these questions are just they are questions. I think they are necessary, and with the right foundations, I don't think it will prove to be much of a challenge. But I mean, as we always, Nigeria is a very queer, ecosystem to operate in.
Yeah. So Olaleye, I know that I said that's like the last question, but something just dropped in my mind now. If there are like best practices, like there are other parts of the world that digital assets have been successfully taxed. I don't know if you have an idea of that.
Yeah, I mean, a number of places, right? As you know, the number of jurisdictions where regulations have been introduced. I mean, South Africa that I mentioned, for one, is one of the few African countries that have regulations in place at this point. India as well introduced taxes at a point. I think sometime last year they proposed about 30%. the implementation of that so far, I mean, I don't know yet about the implementation of that so far, but 30% was introduced, and in Europe too as well, with the implementation of MICA, right? They're going to declare provisions and implementation around taxes. But what you will see when you consider all these jurisdictions and some of these examples and just laid down, I would notice that they have actual regulations. They have a system that is working. Everyone knows the rights and obligations that they have in place. And there are things that are attainable, right? That are not in a way rigid to the ecosystem, and purchase them, to act in a certain way against the regulators. And we've seen this, in so many other places that it work. We have Estonia as well, one of the greatest countries where innovation and a lot of companies are incorporating and are having their business activities out of there. So there are use cases. There are the there are the cases that you can actually study for some of these jurisdictions, where you can actually understand how they've done it and how they are even able to monitor compliance. Because having laws into place without compliance, it all doesn't matter. Do not have those mechanisms ready
in place.
So yeah.
Thank you very much, Olaleye, for answering so gracefully. I love that you added a lot of insight and backed it up with sufficient examples. Thank you for joining us on this conversation on the Techpoint Africa podcast today. We loved having you around, and we hope that subsequently, if we reach out to you, you won't mind obliging to our request.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure joining you and lending out a voice to this issue.
Yes, thank you.
We have 3 interesting newsletters. The first is Techpoint Digest, which is a 5-minute run through of everything happening in tech all around Africa. The second is about VCs, founders, and investments. And to get information on all those things, simply subscribe to Equity Merchants. If you're more interested in the workplace and the new trends around employment and employees, simply subscribe to the Modern Workplace newsletter. You find the link to these newsletters in the description.
So Mano, the Angolan grocery delivery startup that launched in Nigeria in 2022, has expanded or has announced this expansion into food delivery in Lagos and Abuja. Why I find this as an interesting story is the ongoing conversation about the macroeconomic situation happening in Nigeria and how it's affecting people's disposable income and how much they use these tech solutions for their day-to-day lives. And now another player is entering into this space. So Chimgozirim, sincerely and from sincerely, I want you to say this sincerely and with your coverage of the startup space and the people that have entered into the space, startups that have entered into the space and have left. Do you think the Nigerian market needs another food delivery startup?
That's a billion naira question. I was going to use $1 million, but
where do you want to be done?
Our currency is not exactly doing very well. But yes, I don't know. Do we really need another competitor? Probably. I don't think it's a yes or no question. Nobody would give you a straight answer or should give you a straight answer. If you do, well, maybe you know something that we do not know. But I don't think we do. What am I even saying? We probably do. We probably don't. So I think what's to be said is the food delivery market in Nigeria is hardly saturated. We have a number of players, and what's interesting is that everybody seems to be going after, at least with the current crop of players we have, everybody's going after a different group of customers. So you would first think Chowdeck is going after a specific group of customers, right? Well, I don't know, Gen Zs, do they really have money like that? But
would they like to eat out?
Yeah, they're going for the person who is willing to pay just a little more to get the food that they want. Then you have a food court, for example. Food court is not food delivery, but they are also targeting a very different niche. Same with Hey Food. So we kind of have, yes, while it's still food delivery, but we have like, I guess I'll call that sub niches from what we have seen so far. So maybe one more player is welcome. I mean, what I would want to know is, of course, you know that Mano is just, they are going to continue operating in Lagos and Abuja. I do not know if they would begin to consider other markets, other cities. Perhaps Ibadan, everyone does Lagos, Abuja, then Port Harcourt. I do not know if they would also be considering similar moves. But yeah, it's, I guess it's a welcome development.
So looking at how Mano has fared in with grocery delivery, do you think they have like a good shot at, since it's as if they have like the infrastructure, they're probably going to convert their current customer base to groceries and food? They are quite similar. So do you think like they have like a chance and they don't have to like struggle much given what they already have access to?
Okay, so I think they have more than a chance.
Okay.
For a number of reasons. One would be the approach that they want to take. We'll get to that in a bit, but I think that's one reason why they have a shot. But the other is, like you mentioned, they already have operational experience in the African market. So the first time I used Mano was last year. I needed a particular coffee brand that I couldn't find in the usual stores that I use, and I used them. The promise, I think, was I could get my delivery in about 45 minutes, and I wanted to test it, so placed an order. I thought I had placed an order, but it was later on I found I had not. So I kind of placed my order very late, around maybe between 3 and 4 p.m. and I did not expect to get it that day because of the timing, but I did. I got it around 8 p.m., which, to be fair, it's not 45 minutes, but any other person would have probably said your order will come the next day, but they delivered on that day. And from some of the conversations I've seen around, they seem very efficient when it comes to like delivery times. And with food delivery, I think apart from me being able to get my food when I want it, the speed at which you deliver my food is also very important. I don't want my food coming 2 hours after I have delivered. What if I die of hunger? Right?
If I have not died, but it's not a good one.
With food delivery, like speed is essential.
Very important.
If you can't guarantee me speed, then we could have issues. So I think Mano has a shot. Just going by that alone, they do. And again, we do not exactly have any clear market winner. Yes, we have people who have a significant share of the market, but we do not have a clear market winner. So anyone coming in now would have a shot. I mean, maybe if you review it in a month or in a year or two, you now find out whether you're still alive. But at this moment in time, 10:23 on Thursday, you do have a shot.
Right. For people that like have no idea what how Mano works, right? It's just like they aggregate like supermarkets, or malls that sell stuff on their platform, and then you go there, look for what you're looking for, place an order, pay for it, then they deliver, they bring it. It's as if you're sending somebody on a grocery shopping, you're sending them to the market to get something for you. That's the way it works. So I feel that that model, if extended into food delivery, with them aggregating like stores that are close to like hotspots, like places that people would ordinarily order food, like maybe Unilag or Ikeja, or so, like you just like focus on those kind of places that people ordinarily patronize, right? And there's a comment that came up in the announcement that they made, and I'm going to read that out now. It seems like it has a lot of things to do with the model they are eventually going to run. And there is the comment: if we have 1,000 customers, we want to nurture them and ensure they have all they need. And it speaks to something like it's like they want to, like, we are not going for like a large number. We just feel like the few we can get, we are able to serve them like individuals. So, what does that statement like? How does it speak to the kind of model they probably run with this food delivery thing they want to start doing?
Okay, so I think what it just tells you is that the focus for them isn't growth at all costs or rapid growth.
Okay.
That's not the focus, and it makes perfect sense.
Okay.
The reason is, yes, I said you have a shot, but your market is not exactly very large. Food inflation right now is, I think, above 35% in Nigeria.
And that's like the real measure of
means-
inflation.
Yeah, well, I mean, some people would dispute that, but we have sky high food inflation on one hand. You also have a situation where Nigerians are spending, the average Nigerian spends, I think, about 60% of their annual income on food, which leaves very little room for, luxuries.
Yeah.
And if we are being honest here, food delivery is sort of luxury. It's not something that maybe a family of four, like, I don't know, it's not something a father who earns 150,000 naira would consider
careful
every day for his kids, right? So it's luxury for the most part. So your market isn't that large as you would wish. So deciding that I want to target a segment of the market and then serve them, make sure that they are very happy, that they think twice before switching to another person, is a perfect strategy. And just in addition to the like food delivery not necessarily being an essential need, there's also the fact that I'm beginning to lose my train of thoughts here, but
yeah, while you find your train of thought, Mano is coming to a market where child deck has a lot of clout. That means you're not just trying to get new customers, you're trying to take customers from one that has established its voice in this space. So possibly, yeah. Yes, people still use Jumia food. People use child deck and all, but yes, the market, as small as it is, as current players, and you're coming into it. So if you would want to like recommend or just take a shot as a guess at what Mano can bring that can get you, if you're a child deck or a Jumia user, Jumia food user, how what Mano can do to get you on his side.
What they can do, just make sure my food gets to me very quickly. So yeah,
so they have to beat delivery times for.
I don't know if you should beat delivery times. So I've remembered what I was going to say earlier. So one major problem with food delivery is the margins. It's very thin, and if you decide to serve if you want to go after a very large customer base, what that would often mean is you're offering incentives to get them on board, right? So you're either spending huge on marketing, and that marketing may not always translate to actual revenue from the customer. I wonder what the average revenue per user for the average food grocery delivery brand in Nigeria is, right? It could be high, but when you consider that in terms of your customer acquisition cost and juxtapose that, I wonder what I suspect it doesn't tell a very, very interesting story. So, and I have the suspicion that Mano has been in this food delivery market before.
In Nigeria.
Yes, but don't take my word for it, except they agree to confirm it. But yeah, I think that margin being very thin makes sense for them, or makes sense for their approach, because if you have 100,000 people, yes, you would. The assumption is that with scale, you achieve economies of scale, and then you kind of cut down on your costs. But that may not always be the case, right? So to your question, what can they do? There are a few things, and I think they've already outlined some of them. One is that they mentioned that, yes, there are like larger players in that particular space, but you have issues with customer refunds when your food, we experienced something similar yesterday, not with the food delivery product, but someone in that space, right? Customer refund takes time for some people whose name I would not be naming. There's also the fact that orders can be mixed up, which kind of speaks to the customer service. And then there's also what do you call it now? Delayed food, like having your food come hours after, which almost everybody has had similar challenges. And I suspect it's also because they have not like they've scaled very quickly. And of course, those are like common problems.
Challenges.
So yeah, if they can fix those issues, ensure that they're growing, maybe not slowly, but growing appropriately. Like, don't be too quick to scale. Only serve people that you know that the revenue from what they are bringing in is like it's commensurate with what you're spending to acquire them. Then yeah, it makes sense. And I mean, I think Mano hasn't. I don't know that they've raised a lot of money, so that's something to also be cautious about. So yeah, I think if they can
they're
fix some
probably
of
going
those
to
things,
grow slow and attend to this pain point that customers have. It's usually don't like overpromise. The 45 minutes, 15 minutes delivery.
actually under
we know it
promise and
is.
over deliver might be a better thing. And to be fair, I think they will have a good chance. Really, that efficiency here, it looks like
They already
they
have
have
efficiency with grocery shopping. But
yes. So food is a different beast.
Yes.
Yes, but I think they can still like take some of the learnings from that.
okay, yeah, that's the thing I was trying to. Yes, if you're entering into a new market, you must be ready to like look for a pain point that customers, because even if you don't want customers to use your products at first, once you're new, they want to try you.
Which
Because-
I don't even want customers to use.
No. I'm trying to say that if you don't want to go in and try to like acquire customer a lot, for instance, customers who still want that already use food delivery, they still want to use your products to see whether this is good than what I'm using, especially if the other one is problematic. You get, so they should be able to solve that, like like attack that pain point, and that will help them to retain new customers. And we'll look out for how Mano progresses in this new market it has entered. So thank you for joining us once again on this episode of Techpoint Africa Podcast. We hope that you've been educated, enlightened from our conversations today. Don't forget to send us your feedback on any of our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can also send us an email at podcast@techpoint.africa. Podcast@techpoint.africa. I'm happy to tell you that a lot of things happened this week, and I don't want you to miss out on them. So you can go to techpoint.africa to catch up on everything that happened in the African tech space this week. Thank you for joining us again, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.